All right, greetings and welcome to the implementation for the Eagle Dive VR. I am your host, Scott Looney. We're going to go through the basic documentation, step-by-step documentation, and I'm going to take you through this step-by-step so that hopefully you have a pretty good idea of how to implement the stuff in the Eagle Dive VR project. So we're going to basically start from the very beginning inside Unity. And for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to click Add. And then we're going to go into our document or our downloads folder, and I'm going to find my my version of my thing, and it's under the GAI category, so probably right here, and inside ready to upload. Okay, and what it's called is number 2 because I made a copy, brand new copy of the original Eagle Dive VR project. Now I've basically uncompressed everything, so it's all ready to go essentially. So I'm ready to go in this particular case. I know where it is. It's under here, and this is basically what we'll look for. What you want to look for is the things that have all the different files in there. You don't have to go into any of the subfolders. All you have to do is basically just stick it, like it is essentially here. And then you can just highlight the folder at the top, and then you click Open. Now remember, this is a two-step process because in Unity Hub, you do this kind of thing. There's an issue here. So you might have a situation in which the version doesn't match the version you have, so you can update it this way. But right now we are on 2020.1.17, and it's really important to stay on this particular version right now. But here is where you would potentially change it to any version that you might have. Just remember, never ever open a Unity project with an older version of Unity than the one that it's marked for. And the one that you can tell if it's marked for says Unity version 2020.1.17. So that's the version it is. All right, that didn't take too long. We're back here, and we're just going to basically look at how this is all organized. Now, there are actually 3 scenes in this project, and they can be found by clicking under the Assets folder, and then Equilibrium VR, and then there's 3 scenes you want to basically talk about. 1 is the main menu, 2 is our audio manager scene, which we'll spend a lot of time in actually, and then 3 is our gameplay scene. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to basically do some of the implementation to begin with, and then we're just going to check it to make sure it is actually playing at all, because it's always a really good idea to just simply run through the whole, implementation thing just to see if the pipeline is working correctly as it's supposed to. Because if there's a problem, then it'll show up pretty quickly, even when you just try to play a single sound, So what we're going to do is we're definitely going to do some very, very basic implementation to begin with, and then we'll fill it out a little bit more as we go on. And we'll get into the spatial audio stuff as well. But for now, we're just going to talk about basic Unity audio for this point in time. Okay. So so basically the main menu is essentially just a menu where you can select things, and you can only really do the fishing game at this point in time. And then it'll go and load up the audio manager scene by itself in a script. And then that loads eventually when you click the fishing option there with the P key. You can basically go to the gameplay scene after that. And what we're going to do is going to take a look at the audio manager scene, which we're going to spend most of our time in at this point. So when you double click on the audio manager scene, we're going to go to the audio manager object. And the audio manager object has a script, and it has all of these different kinds of things that are here basically. And yeah, so I may have to move my video a teeny bit. Just a second, hang on. Okay, so basically what we have here are these various things here that we have here, and I can give you a little bit of a zoom here so you can take a look and see. So essentially, this is the basic sort of situation that we have here, and there are lots of different audio clips, and there's mixer snapshots, which we will get into a little bit later, not immediately. And then we're going to be dealing with our audio sources. So we're going to probably be dealing with our audio sources first, and then we will get on to the other things, the other incidental sound effects that we can potentially have and test and stuff like that. But we really want to make sure that, for example, the opening music works well and, all that kind of stuff, essentially. So, yes, so let's go and check that out. All right, so what we're going to do is we're first going to take a look at what we need to basically do this. So what we want to do is move, over essentially from our whole window that we have here onto the left side of that window, and we're going to look at the Unity hierarchy to do so. Okay. So the Unity hierarchy is over here. And under our audio manager, we're going to have all of those different categories. And right now, all of these objects are blank, except for the few that are under the 3D waterfall ambience, but that's the sort of a spatial audio thing rather than just standard audio. So we're not going to look at that quite yet. So what we're going to do is, however, is we're going to basically add audio sources and potentially audio clips to this, depending on what our step-by-step is telling us to do, essentially. Okay? So to add an audio source is actually generally fairly easy. So what we're going to do in this particular case is if you click on any object, you basically go over here to Add Component in the inspector. And from the inspector, you can go and click Audio and then Audio Source. And that's how you can add an audio source. So if you highlight more than one object, like this, you can do the same action for those 3 objects, essentially. So, and, basically that's the same way. You can do it exactly the same way. If you go over here to the inspector side, take a look at the inspector side here, and you click Add Component, and then all you have to do is go here and, to audio, and you can see where audio source is, and there you have it. And now all of these objects will have audio sources. Okay. So if I zoom out to my main window, basically you'll see that essentially if I go to any of these objects here, you'll see them appear over there. Some of the ones I haven't added these audio sources too. So we definitely want to do that. And so you can, again, hold down Shift to select multiple objects, click Add Component, go over here to Audio, and choose Audio Source. And then those 3 objects all have audio sources. So you can do the same action. This helps a lot, obviously, if you have to do 100 objects, then you can easily do it this way. So I'm going to do the same here for the music, right? And then we're going to click Add Component again, and then Audio, and then again Audio Source. Now we have basically implemented we've created all of the audio sources that we need for this particular purpose. Now some of these audio sources will have sounds automatically added to them, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to basically do that, okay? And what we want to do is we'll want to basically go back to the audio manager and now associate our audio sources with these objects that we've created audio sources with. If you haven't done that, this won't work. It won't be able to find an audio source correctly at that point. So what you can do in this particular case is you can go here, say, to UI Sounds, and that's going to be UI Source. And then Eagle SFX will be Eagle Source. And then there should be a Stinger Source. Yeah, Stinger Source. Stinger Source here. And all I'm doing is I'm dragging over the objects in question over from left to right, essentially, right? Until they highlight here. Splash Source will be Splash Sound, I think, here, or Water Splash, rather. Yep, Water Splash. Wind Loop is called Wind Loop. That's pretty easy. Then we have Ambience 2D, which would be 2D Area Ambience. Waterfall source 3D. Eagle wing source is going to be eagle wing flap. And menu loop 2D is going to be menu music loop. And finally, our game loop will be here. So what that looks like in the inspector is the following. Okay? All of our audio sources are now hooked, all of our audio source references are actually hooked up to real audio sources. They don't say none anymore. Okay? So we've got all of that basically done. And now what we want to do is we want to start putting in sounds where we need to put them in. But we're just going to do one of these to just demonstrate if the whole thing is working correctly, right? Because this way we can see if the entire pipeline, workflow is happening basically. So, okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to actually add a music clip to this so that we can actually hear our audio back, but we're going to have to load a different scene to do that, most likely. So we're going to find the sounds that we're looking for. In this particular case, it should be background music or background main, which was this one. Yeah, okay, it's that one. So I'm going to basically take just this. I've got an assets folder here, and it's got one asset here called Flappy. I'll tell you that in a little bit why we're doing that. But I'm going to find this background main thing, and this is basically just the beginning music that you hear. It's just a simple sort of nice, pleasant sounding kind of thing. And what we're going to do is we're going to stick it on the menu music loop. Okay. I'm going to click over here. We're going to make sure this is playing on awake, and it also needs to be looping. Remember, playing on awake means that the sound will play when the scene loads automatically, and loop will make it, of course, loop. And we definitely want to make sure that everything else is pretty much left alone. It might be a little loud to talk over, so I might put it a little bit down in volume just to set that up. But the pitch should definitely be at 1. If you have pitch at 0, there will be no audio because it will be playing at 0 speed. You can also put the stereo pen, but make sure it's also spatial blend because it is music. It's not 3D sound or anything like that. And we're not spatializing this. We don't want to mute it or anything like that. And we don't want to send it to a mixer group just yet, okay? So at this point in time, you can save this scene. And now let's go back over. All right. And in this particular case, I just simply found that background main object and I dragged it over and I basically stick it right there essentially. So now we have this over here. We found our thing. We dragged it over into that field over there. Now what we want to do is we want to just play this back and just see if it plays at all, right? If we've done anything correctly at all. So we're going to try that out and we'll see what happens. To do this, what we need to do is we need to go to the assets folder, to the Equilibrium VR, and then double click our main menu, our O1 underscore main menu scene. That's actually the thing that sort of kicks everything off and gets it going. So we're going to do that and we'll see what happens. All right, now we have some sound. That's going to be good for us. Excellent. So now we can start moving on to implementing other kinds of things. We've definitely verified that at least the basic audio system in Unity is working correctly, and it is playing the sound that we're supposed to play. And again, just to make sure that if you're having issues or whatever, you want to make sure that in the audio manager, you've got that music category, you've got a menu music loop object, and it's got the audio source happening. And you actually don't even have to have play on awake turned on. You definitely do have to have loop turned on. The script of the audio manager script is actually going to automatically start the music. But you have to put the clip in there, right? You have to set it to 2D, and you kind of have to make sure that it has some volume, although it doesn't have to be. Usually by default, it'll be at maximum volume. And pitch should be at 1, which would be normal pitch. At 0, you'll have 0 pitch, so it will actually not play at all. Which is not what you want, so don't put it at 0. Then you'll want to make sure that the spatial blend is set here for 2D, and that sort of stuff. So once you do that and you save all those changes, then you should basically get what we are getting here by loading in that first scene again. Under Equilibrium VR main menu, then we get this thing here, and then basically if we start it up, we got it. Okay, so at this point in time, we've got that working pretty well. So now the next things to do is to just start implementing all the rest of the stuff that's supposed to be there effectively. So let's sort of talk a little bit about some of those things. Those are just incidental sound effects that we basically have here. And we'll go to the audio manager scene and we'll do a lot of those. Not all of them, not every single sound effect is automatically listed here, but most of the incidental, especially the one-shots, are usually listed here, basically. So we're going to basically do all of that sort of stuff, yeah, it's going to be not too difficult overall. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to our assets that we have in our window, which is weird. I guess it doesn't want to do there. We have assets that I'm, bringing in, some audio assets, and I'm just basically dragging them in essentially to the, exactly, this area. Basically, what we're looking for is the click button. Maybe do some splash sound. Eagle fall. And I think I've also got an eagle fail. These are just the incidental sound effects of different kinds. We already had Flappy there. We got the sound that happens when you get the fish. Well, that'll be nice when we get inside the game. And light wind. And notification to start the sound. And let's see, some stinger. Yeah, that's good stuff. Stinger lose and stinger win. Let's see if that's not all of them, by the way, but that's a good portion of them. It's not absolutely everything, but that's pretty good. We got some waterfall sounds. Let's see, and a water splash when you go into the water to get the fish, and another wind loop of some kind here as well. That's a little bit louder, and we may not necessarily use that one as much. Anyway, so then what we want to do is we go back to our audio manager object right here, and in the inspector, we'll basically drag these things over. If we take a look a little bit closer at the inspector, you'll see a bunch of these different sound effects that are here, and we're basically just going to, use a few of these assets that we've just imported into here, and we're going to basically put them in here. So there's one called Eagle Crash. There's one here, Got Fish. So Got Fish is the get fish sound in this case for me. You have a water splash. There's a water splash right here. So you can just basically drag these over, and it'll use those particular audio clips. We definitely want to click the button, so that'll be our button click. It's kind of reverberant. Our game start should be our notification, and it's right here. Our wind sound should be our stinger for the winning, which is basically a one-shot musical sound effect, effectively, of short duration, so that we can, most stingers should usually be pretty short generally. So we've got a few of these. We've got Eagle Crash, which I think is Eagle Fall. And then I have different ones here, like Eagle Cry, and that's actually going to be more than one sound effect, and I have made them, but I don't know if they're actually... Yeah, they're here. So I will grab them. This is just an example of what are called variations, and many times in game audio you have situations like footsteps, for example, where you'll get lots of variations of the same kind of sound effect, essentially. So for this, what you can do is if you start dragging things over and just highlight the area under the random eagle sounds, it will add to the list of random eagle sounds. So if you do this for a few times, then you're just going to keep adding. You can see the size is now increased to 2, right? And now if we go here, again, size is increased to 3, and so forth. And you can just keep adding ones, and it'll add more to them. In this case, I'm just choosing to do it mostly at Eagle 4. And let me think about if I've got... I may have an eagle cry of some kind around here, besides that. Eagle sound, I think is what it is. I'll go and put that there under eagle cry. Oh, sorry. Got to import it first. Can't just drag it from the Finder directly. So it'll be eagle sound 01. Eagle cry. Okay. So we're getting pretty close here. We have like most of these things already done, but this isn't everything. This is just, most of the things. So the next thing we're going to start looking at, and let's just make sure, see if we can at least get here the click button and stuff like that in our scene. Save our results here. Always good to keep checking as you go on, rather than getting yourself too far down the line and then realize you've done some things wrong. So basically going to go back here to main menu, double click again. Remember after I saved the audio manager scene, right? Going to double click on main menu and let's go back to our basic view. And then we'll basically be able to check this out and listen to see if we hear the playing button play as well. So P for play. Okay, so that's pretty much that. We didn't do really super great, but it is basically working, and it is playing a few of those sound effects as we needed to have them do. So as this far, hopefully you've be able to get this far. So you've got at least a few of the sound effects happening and playing inside the game space. Again, we're not yet getting into the spatial audio, and we're not yet getting into the mixer. So, but we will in a very short time. Let's try that all again and make sure if we're getting what we need. I think the thing is that it probably just mutes or stops the mixer, but it's not fading things out. So that's why the music suddenly just sort of cuts out at a particular point. Maybe not. Just fade out. Just want to see if it'll loop. That's what's happening, is that it's trying to start another piece of music, but it hasn't gotten that going on yet. So I haven't implemented that music yet. So we're going to go and change that up. So that will work. So then we're going to basically do that. Go here to the audio manager. Under audio manager and music, our game music loop is empty, right? So we want to basically add ourselves a game music loop, which I think was this one here, background music 4. It's a little more exciting. So, let's see what happens here. Did I do that correctly? Background music 4. Yep, there it is. So we'll do that, and we'll grab that. And also, we don't need to put play on awake necessarily. We will want loop, because play on awake would mean that it would start at the same time as the other piece of music. We definitely do not want that. So game music loop goes there. And and then what we'll probably also want to do, make sure is go in the game manager, make sure that so all of our music loops are triggered by the script, but they're not here as variables inside the script. Okay, so they're basically hooked up to the actual audio sources that are here essentially. Okay, so some of these are definitely going to be 3D. For example, this 3D waterfall ambience will be 3D, but we haven't put a clip on there, so we should probably do that. So we'll basically go here into the audio assets, and we will grab ourselves a clip for that, which is a waterfall close, I think, right? Yeah, it's this one. So we'll put that there. Oh, and there's actually a waterfall ambience backgroundy thing too. So it's okay. So that's the waterfall directly. It's a little bit quieter, and I think this one has more ambiences in it. Yeah, That one's got more bird sounds and stuff like that. So for that one, we're going to basically change our 2D area ambience, and we're going to basically put that one in there as our sound effect. So we'll drag that in here to the audio clip. We'll play on awake, and we definitely want to loop that one for sure. The waterfall ambience. Actually, no, I'm sorry. We don't necessarily want play on awake. It will automatically happen at the menu, and that's not what we want. So we do want play on awake. We want to probably take that off. We do want the loop for the waterfall ambience. That's the waterfall close that I just was mentioning, right? Okay. And so far, we're not yet involving the mixer. We will do that in the next video that we're going to talk about. But and the wind loop, I think I liked the light wind one rather than the super heavy one. This one is what I'm thinking about. And that should also loop, but does not need to play on awake, because again, that happens when the other scene is loaded, not when this particular scene is loaded, which this particular scene is actually loaded at the very beginning of the game, basically. So we definitely don't want to play on awake for those particular things, because it will automatically load those sounds and then everything will start playing. So you definitely don't want these other ambiences, because these are basically in-game ambiences when we get to the actual gameplay scene. And we definitely don't want them to automatically trigger when we're in the menu scene. Okay. So I think that basically does most of the stuff. We haven't gotten into the spatial audio, but I think we should save that for the next video. So we'll see you in the next video when we start implementing the spatialized audio. Okay, so we'll see you there.